Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning.
Morning.
My presentation is the development of the integrated public transport network model tender document. So my presentation will be focusing on the gross negotiated contract. And the contents of my presentation, I will cover because of the presentation, current legislative position, the NLTA roles of the spheres of government, intergovernmental relations, why the development of the model negotiated contract documents, and then the latest draft documents, and then contracting for public transport services, main issues in contracting, and then conclusion. The purpose of this presentation is to update the conference on the development with regard to the final draft document of the cross-based negotiated contract for the rollout of the IPTN's integrated public transport networks. And the current legislative position, the NLTA contracting sections with regulations came into force on 31st August 2009. Section 11 on the role of spheres of government also came into force on the same month. The NLTA regulations were published on 17 December 2009 with that notice. One important consequence is that municipalities must become the main contracting authorities. The 1996 white paper on national transport policy still applies, but it has been modified by later policy documents. The most important policy document is the Public Transport Strategy and the Action Plan of 2007. The three big building blocks of the strategy are integrated rapid public transport networks in the large 12 cities based on the ITPs. Authorities control over the integrated networks. A maximum stakes for existing bus minibus operators in the IPTN's operations. A move from operators control based on net contract to authority control based on a cross contract. And I'm happy that the industry supports that. A move from operators control, I've said that other policy documents also apply. For example, the National Rail Plan 2006 and the National Land Transport Strategic Framework. The National Land Transport Act 5 of 2009 implements the new policy. It came into force on December 2009. Some section on 31 August, and then it repeals the NLTA 22 of 2000 and provides for the following: more uniform laws and procedures, functions consolidated with the same entity municipalities where possible to avoid fragmentation with the limits of the Constitution. Interprovincial and tourist transport being regulated nationally. Integrated rapid public transport networks to be established in large cities, incorporating all modes with through ticketing system with authority control. Integrated public transport networks to be established in other areas. Registration to be dealt with by entities responsible for operating license. The National Act does not control registration. Freight is not regulated by the Act except in relation to claiming, but there should be other measures, for example, to attract freight from road to rail mode. Roles of spheres of government. The national sphere is responsible for national transport policy and strategy, coordination between provinces, assigning functions to other spheres of government, interprovincial and tourist transport, acting as a contracting authority for subsidiary services contract, interim contract, current tender contract, and negotiated contract concluded in terms of the NLTA. And the reason is so that the national sphere can assign the existing contract to municipalities. And then the role of provincial sphere is for provincial policy and strategy within the framework of national policy and strategy, capacitating municipalities, implementing the provincial integrated development strategies and public transport strategy with due attention to rural areas. Where a province was performing a function in section 11(1)(a) on the date of commencement of the Act, NLTA, subsidized services contract and the interim contract, it must continue to do so unless the minister assigns those functions to municipalities in terms of section 11(6). Therefore, provinces must continue to manage the contracts they concluded under the NLTA unless the minister assigns those contracts to municipalities. And then the role of the municipalities are to develop land transport policy and strategy for their areas, in their capacity as a planning authority, preparing, implementing, and monitoring transport plans for their areas, their ITPs. Financial planning for land transport in their areas. Managing the movement of persons and goods within their areas. Planning, implementing, and managing of modern integrated public transport networks and travel corridors within the municipal area and liaising with neighboring municipalities. Service level planning for passengers rail in consultation with PRASA, integrated ticketing system. In the case of a gross cost contract, determine fare structures and fare level, concluding subsidized services contract, commercial services contract, and negotiated contract contemplated in section 41(1). Intergovernmental relations. A province may, with one or more municipalities, may agree for a joint exercise of functions or can establish provincial entity. Provinces may undertake municipal functions in agreement with the municipalities in terms of their constitution. Adjacent municipalities may agree on a joint exercise of functions or establish a municipal entity under the Municipal System Act. SPAs must act according to principles of cooperative governance. Where there are significant movement between two municipalities, they may establish inter-municipal forum under the Intergovernmental Relations Framework Act. Alternatively, they may establish a multi-jurisdictional services utility under the Systems Act. Why the development of these model contract documents? The key objectives of this project are the following: to determine an appropriate subsidy or contracting model or combination of model for both urban and rural areas that will allow for public transport objectives such as integration to be achieved whilst at the same time allowing more flexibility on part of contracting authorities and service providers. As such, the new contracting model should be aligned with the emerging multimodal transport proposal within the various metropolitan areas. Also, to develop and draft model contract document that will address issues such as your ownership of assets or vehicles, revenue collection, key performance indicators, and the employment of persons from within different transport environments. In addition to the usual contracting specification of route networks, vehicle conditions, and fares, the document must also specify performance-based reward and penalties that are relevant to the operating environment. As you know that this model will be a performance-based quality contract model document. The model subsidy document prescribes requirements for subsidization in various contracting systems applicable in rural and urban areas. The documents provide unique features for each contracting system and enable contracting authorities to adapt and apply them in their specific operating environment. As far as metropolitan areas are concerned, the document should cover the entire citywide operation and therefore also accommodate the BRT network operations. This is a model contract document for negotiated contract, as I've also already indicated, to implement integrated rapid public transport networks being established by 12 large cities and later in the areas of sub-district municipalities in terms of the National Public Transport Strategy and the Action Plan and the NLTA. These IPTNs may or may not involve the bus rapid transit, also called an integrated rapid public transport system. The document is based on a a gross cost as suggested by the National Public Transport Strategy. It is the first form of the proposed contracting documents. So you are going to have the cost-based contracts, your negotiated, and the tender. And then the net-based contracts will have the negotiated and the tender. The document puts forward the position of government, views and requirements as was developed by the department, provinces and municipalities through the PTICF Contract Compliance Subcommittee for service to be operated on its behalf. At least the 12 cities must establish IPTNs and may do negotiated contract with existing operators for a maximum of 12 years. In terms of the National Transport Strategy, contracts for IPTNs will be a cost-based. That is, the contracting authority does all the paying and keeps the fees. The operator is paid by a rate per kilometer. So this type of contract transfer the revenue risk to contracting authorities. Other subsidized services must go out to tender for a maximum of 7-year contracts. Commercial services contract can be concluded where there is no subsidy, also for 7 years. Contracting authority are now municipalities in terms of the NLTA, and the province must manage the existing contract until they assign them to municipalities. A previous model tender and contract documents were too restrictive, only allowed for net base, and it was only focusing on one unit. So these different types of contract, the negotiated contract, as a contracting authorities may enter into negotiated contract with operators in their areas only once, with a view to integrate service forming part of IPTNs in terms of the ITPs, or promoting economic empowerment of small business, or a person previously disadvantaged, or facilitating the restructuring of parastatals or municipal operators. A negotiated contract will be for a maximum of 12 years, I've indicated that. After the first round, service must go out on tender, and contracting authorities must take steps on a 10-year basis to achieve this before the expiry of the negotiated contract. Incumbent operator must be involved where appropriate. With regard to subsidized services contract, on expiry of the negotiated contract concluded under Section 41, the subsidized services under Section 42, or a contract concluded under NLTTA, or any extensions thereof, the service must be put out to tender in terms of a subsidized services contract. A reasonable extension could lead to court challenges. If not done, the Minister, National Treasury, and Auditor General must intervene. A subsidized services contract may not exceed 7 years. The Minister may prescribe requirements for model tender and contract documents, or provide model documents. That is what we are doing. In terms of the commercial services contract, a contracting authority may enter into a commercial service contract. These are contracts between a contracting authority and an operator where no subsidy is involved. Tenders must be invited by notice in a provincial gazette and a newspaper. And the minister must make regulations within 2 years for the conversion of all scheduled services to contracted services. Meaning those operators who are operating on commercial basis. So minister, after making the regulations, all those contracts must be converted so that they can be a scheduled contract and that they will run for a period of 7 years. Existing contracting arrangements. Where there are existing contracts concluded under the NLTTA in an area, the contracting authority may allow the contract to run its course, negotiate with the operator for inclusion in the IPTNs, or make reasonable offer of alternative service or a monetary settlement. The settlements must bear in relation the value of the unexpired portion of the contract, if any. If this fails, the matter is referred to arbitration and mediation, and then minister may make regulations on transfer of existing contractual arrangements. When new contracts are awarded, the Act provides that rights of existing workers must be protected in terms of Labour Regulation Act, Section 197. So during our consultation processes, there are key issues that was raised by the stakeholders. So I've tried to highlight those issues, and then one is the establishment cost. So in the document, clause 39.24 to 39.26 has been prepared to allow for establishment costs to be paid at the discretion of the CA, and then it will therefore form part of the negotiations. So other issues which was raised is the timetable variation. This is going to be dealt with through the variation clause 16 and through applying the fixed contract rates and the variable contract rates. An adjustment timetable will be provided for in Schedule 10. So possible adjustment timetable. The table will most probably only be applied when serious changes are made in service during peak hours, as drivers and vehicles required are determined by these services. So in the event that the CA requires the service to be adjusted, the CA shall notify the operator. In such event, the fixed cost will be adjusted according to the corresponding table below. And then we are saying that if the change in a kilometer, scheduled kilometer, is more than 20% and less than 40%, so your change in fixed cost will be 8%. And then if a change in a scheduled kilometer is more than 40%, it will obviously change your fixed cost to 20%. And we are still busy working on the actual figure, the value of this percentage will be. This is one of the reasons why we are saying the contracting authorities should take more control on this contract. And then another issue is escalation. So escalation, we are saying we have looked at the fixed and variable cost rates that will be used in the contract. And then we are saying that this will form part of the variable cost, and then labor will form part of the fixed cost. Contracts will be priced over 7 years with an extension of 5 years based on performance. I've indicated this is a performance-based contract. So what the contracting authority will do will negotiate with the operators, and then for 7 years. So during that 7 years, the operator will cost his or her contract for 7 years. So after 7 years, if the operators perform well during the 7 years, so the contract will be extended by 5 years. And then in the 5 years, they will come again to negotiate the new contract rates. Because I think in 7 years, the operator should have been paid up all these vehicles. And then other issues was the increase in toll fees will be covered by the CPI. And then as the escalation, our escalation will be based on CPI currently based on what we get from Treasury. And the other issue that was raised is ARTO. ARTO costs, we are saying, cannot be covered or considered because as government, we cannot bail operators who decided to not to abide to the law, and then we say we take that risk. So they have to pay for themselves. So the proposed new escalation formula is in twofold. I've indicated that is variable cost and your fixed cost. And then variable cost, we have looked at the factors, the index. They are not going to go through all those factors, but we have made sure that we we look at the CPI based on the bus operation. So this will be based on the CPI. And then in the fixed cost, we are saying that the formula will also be based on the CPI. And then we are going to take consideration of your labor cost here and other costs, variable costs. Many issues in contracting. Management of service by the CA and the level of control. The industry raised this issue because they were not certain on the control by the CA. So what we are saying is that the CA needs to be in control of the services. This is suggested by the Public Transport Strategy and Action Plan and the National Land Transport Strategy for the drafting of the National Land Transport Bill in 2007, which provide that there must be a move from operators control over routes in timetables, central to authority control. Schedule will impact significantly on the fixed cost portion of the monthly subsidy of the operator. That will be paid by the CA, an element that needs to be, this is an element that needs to be properly managed and controlled. And then again, other issues that was raised as the subcontracting. In the negotiated contract, the concept of subcontracting we said will be removed, but I will explain why. The model negotiated contract documents, because employment arrangement will form part of the contract design, as well as the negotiations to involve existing small bus operators and the taxi operators in the new operating entity. So it's not like we have taken them out, but in the tender contract documents, you are going to see the subcontracting. A certain portion will be set aside for your small bus operators and the taxi operators. But currently, the draft document that we have circulated, it does not indicate that, but we have taken care of that. Another issue that they were raising is the payment period. So the payment period stipulated is in line with the current Gazette model contract document. SMMEs are currently paid accordingly. Problems mostly arise where the main operator delays the payment to subcontracting, which is not relevant in this document because small bus operators or the taxi operators or your SMME will form part of the new entity. And then penalties for late payment by the CA. It was suggested by the stakeholders that CA, a contracting authority, must be punished to pay their claims late. But what we are saying as government is that the Public Finance Management Act, Section 38(1)(f) will apply, and it stipulates that the accounting officer for the department, trading entity, or constitutional institution must settle all contractual obligations and pay all money owing, including intergovernmental claims, within the prescribed or agreed period. In conclusion, is that we have finalized the negotiated contract document. The document will be presented to COTO, which is the committee of head of departments in different transport provinces, chaired by a national DG, and then later will be sent to MINEC for approval. But right currently the document is with the legal services, and we are going to take note of the issues that were raised because there are other issues that we need to address in that document before it can be published. And the project team will consult on the net-based negotiated and tender contract documents for IPTNs, as well as a cross document for tender peoples is in next week on the 29th. And then all documents will be gazetted before the end of March. Thank you.